Hey everyone, you're listening to the Simple Electronics Podcast. I'm your host, Dan from the Simple Electronics YouTube channel. Today's episode is brought to you by PCBWay, but more on them later because today I've got a very special guest indeed. You may have heard about her from her YouTube channel or maybe some of her appearances in crazy good publications. Becky Stern, how are you, Becky?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for being here. I almost feel like I am Thanos, but instead of Infinity Stones, I'm grabbing like important makers to talk with. So this is pretty awesome.
That's a fun way to think about producing a podcast.
Absolutely. Um, so I know about you a little bit, but could you introduce yourself for those listening at home that may not know you or not know you well enough? Who are you? What do you do?
Sure. My name's Becky Stern. I'm a maker and an educator and a content creator. I have made a couple hundred tutorials. Most of them are about electronics or crafts or the two of those things mixed together. I just love making like great documentation about maker projects.
And maker projects indeed. Just a cursory look over your YouTube channel. And I mean, that's enough to impress most people, but we're going to go over some stuff that's even more impressive. First thing, though, I want to hit you with a heavy hitting question. What's it like being on the Maker Christmas gift rotation?
Oh, that's very, very fun. And I feel very honored and special. And it's actually a really important thing to me. So I would be honored to be invited back. The Maker Secret Santa thing is great.
Yeah, let's just explain a little bit what it is. Basically, I was introduced to it because before I really started watching electronics content in a broader scope, I started with channels like Big Clive and stuff like that. But I've also watched This Old Tony for a very long time. And a couple of years ago, he introduced me to this Secret Santa thing where there's like a ring of makers and each maker has a Secret Santa pulled from a hat, I suppose, and then they make gifts for each other. And the whole thing is really awesome. So last year he had Xylofoxlin, which is one of the Infinity Stones that needs to go on my gauntlet for sure. And this year you pulled his name and you made him a wonderful retro toy, but with a new twist. Can you talk about that project a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I also have been watching This Old Tony for years. He's a really, funny YouTuber with like a separate layer of the machining expertise, right? So it's like a
Absolutely.
lot of edutainment. I was intimidated at first, and I thought also I had this idea that I'm going to make another project later. I'm not going to spoil the surprise, but I did have a cool project idea that would work for almost anybody except This Old Tony. Because he never shows his face. I mean, very rarely. Like in his videos, it's just his hands and his the work he's working on. So the project idea I had in mind didn't work for it. Like goes on the wall, so it like wasn't going to work for Tony. So I had come up with a new idea, and I'm like, oh, well, what is Tony like? Even and I'm making like a list of things that I know he likes, and like bending things is something that he likes. I'm like, what do I learn from Tony? Oh yeah, I know. I learn about metal benders. I have part of a sculpture graduate degree, and like got my hands in it in a metal shop and like saw these manual benders and like some like hydraulic benders, cool stuff for forming metal. And I'm not like super big and strong, so it like piqued my interest, and I had this. That's part of why I was interested in watching Tony's channel in the first place. So he's got all these bender videos, and I'm like, okay, what can I do with like wire bending? Oh yeah, don't I have some friends who make like a CNC wire bender? And so then I got in touch with my local friends who make a CNC wire bender machine, and brainstormed with them a little bit. So I can't take full credit for the original idea to recreate the Willow toy, that retro wire toy with the spinning disc that rides along the track. But I did have one as a kid and was massively inspired when it came up in Brainstorm. And made one in the shape of a letter T using the CNC wire bender. I thought that would impress Tony because I didn't think that he had seen the CNC wire bender before.
Yeah, I don't know. See, Tony, he seems very reclusive. He doesn't seem like he doesn't do podcasts, really. He doesn't do appearances. He's one of those folks that just seems, yeah, very like unavailable online. And yeah, I don't know how you ended up with such a good idea for a gift for him, because I mean, between us, I feel like you could send him anything and I think he'd be gracious and say thank you. But I really think you nailed like sort of a piece of his personality with the mixing of sort of like a vintage toy plus a theme to his channel. Because I think, did you send him two, right? A T,
Mhm.
two T's and an O, I think is
No,
what the
that
deal
was
was.
just a happy accident on his interpretation side. It's
Oh.
just a coincidence that he interpreted the star as an O. That's very happy, and it was totally the plan all along. But I made him two because I know he's got two kids, and I wanted the kids to be able to play at the same time.
Oh, look at that level of thoughtfulness. I didn't even think of that aspect of it. Anyways, it doesn't matter. I'm giving you full marks. It doesn't
Thank you.
matter.
Yeah, I felt like it was a slam dunk in terms of concept. You know, had I had more time, of course there's execution side things that you'd always improve if you could, but I was pretty pleased with the outcome.
Well, we're makers, so we know that perfection is the enemy of getting stuff done, because we could probably mess with a project for years past its release date and keep finding improvements. But at some point, you have to decide, this is enough's enough. And I'm just an outsider, so take my opinion as it is. But to me, it's perfect. So it is what it is.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm a firm believer in bringing projects to publication at the 85% finished mark, uh, partially because that last 15% requires like a lot more than 15% of the effort. And also, if you present a project with some legs to it that haven't been fully explored yet, then folks can find themselves in the project more easily and maybe are more inspired to take it on, even if it's like, because, oh, I could do better than that. Like, that's a fine reason to, to want to make something, you know? So I think that's a trade-off that works in my favor time-wise when I'm planning projects.
That's an interesting take. I may steal that. That's actually really good, because it is true. There's like this effort scale, right? Which is like, you can think of an exponential curve, and but not exponential. I guess the other way, whatever that is. I'm not a math person, but putting in 80% of the effort will get you 90% of the way there, or something, or like maybe I said that wrong, but putting in, a little effort gets you a lot of progress. And then to get that last, like, 15%, as you were saying, it takes a lot more effort. And so, yeah, that's a great way
And
to
it, like,
see it. I
squashes
like that.
people's dreams because 'cause they're
It
like,
does.
"Oh, like, I couldn't do better than that," or like, "Oh, I can't think of any idea that I would add to it." So it's, you know? I think seeing yourself in the project is a main way to get inspired, so that's why I slack off at the end. Yeah, exactly.
I'm stealing it.
I just mean in
um,
terms of, like, yeah, like I say, "Oh, you could swap this sensor out for this other sensor," but, I haven't done it yet, you know?
I don't have to say that, because the comment section all piles up on me.
No, and that's
Like,
great, and then that's engagement, you know, all comments are good comments, like, thumbs down means the same thing as thumbs up. Uh, we're playing a psychological game with our parasocial relationships here, and, you know,
very
if I can
true.
get you off your butt and get you making something, that's, like, the ultimate goal, and, if I have to slack off to do it, I'm gonna show you that.
Um, but the Willow is, I think it's a toy from the 80s or 90s. I'm not sure, something like that. But
The commercial that I found was from the '70s, and I think
oh
it was
god,
invented I'm forgetting now because, you know, I didn't store the Wikipedia information in my head. I think it might have been invented in the '50s. It's really
oh
old.
boy. But you have a twist on it. It's not just a flywheel going around the wire. You made it light up, right? And how did you do that?
I added a microcontroller, so to be perfectly honest, it already lit up when I bought the Shanzai Wheel on Amazon, and but it just had a single LED inside it, and I wanted to, you know, complicate things and show Tony how much I care about like his bespoke toy, and so I added some LEDs to it. The original plan was to 3D print the whole new wheel. But like the core is a little more complicated than I thought it was going to be, and it like didn't make sense for me to 3D print an exact replica of the like injection molded parts that were already on my desk from buying the $10 toy. So I decided to upgrade the existing circuitry and sort of just replace all of the parts inside, which was like an LED and a couple coin cell batteries, with a Xiao RP2040 microcontroller, a tiny strip of addressable color changing LEDs, and a switch and a live poly battery and recharging board, so that the whole thing was USB rechargeable.
This is a classic engineering thing. Dave Jones, the EV blog, he would say that if you were working in an engineering firm and you were design your own power supply, for example, you'd probably be the first one to get fired, because there's so many pre-built solutions for these kinds of things that the engineering time you're spending is really not worth it when there's already pre-designed solutions you can use. And so really what you've done was better engineering.
Sure,
That's
and
what it is.
I teach a class in graduate class here in New York at School of Visual Arts in a product design program, and often the students have ideas that that they don't understand what the trade-offs are, because they're not engineers, and they're learning how to work it with an engineering mindset when they're trying to design like a physical product, and yeah, sometimes you just have to know what the definition of success is.
Absolutely. Defining goals and then going back to them to make sure that you've achieved them. That's very important. I know there's some people in my life that I know very well who don't properly define their goals, and then they're always disappointed. They always feel like they failed, even though I'm like, look at all this success, but it's just because they didn't define the goal properly. So
Right, and you have to kind of define your goals a little broadly so that you can have multiple avenues to success, right? So if one avenue doesn't work out, like you have to have your definition of success be flexible enough to accommodate for another attempt in a different direction.
absolutely.
But also, like for me and experimenting, like yeah, okay, don't design a new power supply, but if you want to design a new thing and you're not sure if it's better than the thing that already exists, I like to suggest time boxing the development. So in the case of of Secret Santa, like the thing literally has to ship in a box in order to get to the person who's going to open it in time to have our videos all come out at once. So that's on a real time deadline, and I tried to 3D print the wheel, and the amount of time I could dedicate to it to prevent, like to not hold up the whole project, had expired, and it wasn't showing any promising results. So I needed to take a different avenue towards the success. And you'll see some criticism for how dodgy my like slices look into that injection molded plastic, but the definition of success is like fun and playability. It totally meets those. And then like Tony was incredibly gracious and added some like sound whenever the whenever the wheel was like twirling. He like added music to make it seem more fun. He really was quite a gracious recipient. So I appreciate that. The whole goal of the Secret Santa chain, and it isn't just picking out of a hat, it's actually carefully crafted so that it is a perfect circle. It's organized by Ruth Amos from the Kids Invent Stuff channel, and it's also designed to spread the love among audiences for the bigger Maker YouTube channels among like smaller ones. So as one of those smaller channels, it feels incredibly useful and lovely to be involved.
Small channel maybe, but a big personality, I would say, on your side, because just looking at your resume and what you've done, I mean, you've done some stuff.
Well,
And I mean,
my personal channel right now is the smallest channel I have worked on, right? I helped grow the Make Magazine channel, super huge. I helped grow the Adafruit channel, super huge. And now I'm working on my own channel. So I like to call that other people paying for me to learn.
yeah, and that's fair enough. That's absolutely fair enough. So who did you get a gift from in the Secret Santa? I actually don't remember. It's been a
Jimmy
few months.
DiResta.
Oh yeah. What did he send you?
He made me a leather tool purse. It's like a toolbox that looks a little bit like a purse. So it's, it's like a femme toolbox. It's cute.
Oh
You
yeah.
get all the
Okay.
hardware. It's like it's leather and brass and wood. It's cool. You know what's funny? His fans, I learned, they really hate cancel culture. Um,
Oh,
and like at the very end of my Secret Santa video, Jimmy's fans watched till the very end and heard me like kind of stumble through my like signature sign off. Where I say like follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and I'm reading from a teleprompter. And when I read it, it's like right when like Elon Musk made like the Twitter offices lock everybody out because the guy who makes the security cards got laid off, and like all of this just like
yep.
cluster mess of stuff going on in the tech industry side of Twitter, which I'm in technology, and I know I read the news about this kind of stuff. And so when I'm like reading that part of my script, I said like, oh, maybe not Twitter so much anymore. And like, that's all I said at the very end of my video. And I have a bunch of like people coming after me for like, oh, do you hate free speech? And like these little Elon Musk fans. And some of them were like blaming me for like thinking that comment was about cancel culture and like trying to cancel the people who wanted I don't know, they were just what the right wing hears about what Elon Musk wants to do with Twitter, not like what me and my tech industry friends who have worked there or know people who've worked there are laughing about, and that was really strange because I didn't know that I was gonna trip up some like sort of political rhetoric just around the acknowledging that there was some news to read about.
Very frustrating.
And then, okay, so some of them were like, I hate cancel culture, blah. I was going to subscribe, and now I'm unsubscribing. And then they come back like an hour later. This actually happened. One of them came back an hour later and made a reply to the comment that said, actually, I hate cancel culture so much that I'm not going to like cancel you for what you said, and I'm going to actually follow you. And then like erase both comments. But YouTubers, we get the notification, we can read the comment, like, and then it disappears later. So I thought that was actually kind of cool to have actually reasonable dialogue. But there's a lot of unreasonable sort of like gnats flying around, and you really have to listen carefully for the reasonable conversation.
Frustrating, to say the least.
It's okay when it's cool. It's just a side effect of getting like a certain size of an audience, right? As soon as you pass a certain threshold where like a bunch of people who don't know you are interacting with your content, you're 100% guaranteed to have people who disagree with you, and like that's okay. It's like, but a lot of other people are gonna like and subscribe and not say anything inflammatory in the comments. So this is like a noisy minority.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of Ethan Klein on H3, and he says just after a certain point, you just have to stop reading comments because there's the expectation that the creator is going to read it just goes away. And then you're starting to basically eavesdrop on a conversation that's not to you, but is about you. And it's just, it's never good when, people don't expect that you're going to read it. So,
well, I just have a really, really big list of flagged words for holding things in the pending review like bucket.
Yep.
So I only go through that stuff when I'm in like a really sassy mood. And so I just, that way I catch it before it goes live, and those people don't have the satisfaction of crapping on my front lawn, because like I want to cultivate an audience where I can hang out in the comments. But yeah, when a certain video gets really popular in search or for some other reason, and there's a bunch of strangers looking at it, the comments go a little off the rails.
Just a quick interruption to talk about this episode's sponsor, PCBWay. PCBWay has been a long-term sponsor of the channel, and I think they're a good match for my channel because they provide quality PCBs for a reasonable price. You can get boards manufactured up to 100 mils by 100 mils for just $5, including shipping to Canada, $15 US, including shipping to USA, $12 US, which is incredibly cheap for professionally manufactured PCBs. I can personally attest to the quality of these PCBs, and so if you want a circuit immortalized forever, check out PCBWay.com with the link in the description. Now back to the conversation. Let's talk about something that got sort of national attention. You either built or helped build a costume for Buzz Aldrin on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you got involved with that and what it entailed?
Yeah, that was a really fun project. So, the costume supervisor on the show at the time, Derek, he had also worked on Kimmy Schmidt, and Kimmy Schmidt has these like LED sneakers, sparkly, like, and they used one of my old wearables tutorials to like put some LED sequins like over the top of these canvas sparkly shoes. And so, because I had published this good tutorial that was easily researchable on the internet when you type in like how to make LED shoes, the guy kept me in mind. And when this skit came up about moon scoops, you can watch the clip on YouTube with Stephen Colbert and Buzz Aldrin. I think it's quite funny. They called for the costume designer called for something that lit up, and Derek called me. So I was executing on a sketch from the costume designer for the show. It included like some addressable LED strip around the collar and some LED sequins on the lapel that like are reminiscent of like military accolades, or those like color bars they put on their uniforms. And yeah, and he wore it on the show, and I got to do lighting check, and I got to sit backstage while the show was happening, and it was lovely.
I hope you take this as a big compliment, but it really does look a little bit like a costume you would see on the Orville. I don't know if you know that show at all.
I don't.
It's the Seth MacFarlane, the creator of Family Guy.
Mhm.
It's his take on a comedic Star Trek show, and it's
Oh,
become
okay, yeah,
really
yeah,
good.
okay, yeah. I'm a very visual memory, so like now that I think of like Seth MacFarlane in a Star Trek outfit, I totally know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so it is that level of production quality. I would say it looks very good. It looks awesome. And so for those of you listening at home, I will put a link in the description for you guys to go take a look, because it's incredibly impressive. Like I don't think I would be able to fashion this in less than a year.
What?
Um, no, no
Come
way.
on, I did that in like 2 days.
Oh my God, it doesn't surprise me. Um,
No problem. That would come on. It's like some LED strip and a microcontroller. And like the design was already done. The jacket didn't fit him. It was split open in the back.
oh, really?
Yeah, but that's TV as long as it looks good from the front.
For
And
sure.
also I had programmed some fancy animations, to try to go above and beyond, and like we did a lighting test, and you know how PWM can mess with like cameras if the shutter speed
Uh-huh.
doesn't line up right. And so they're like, what is going on? Like occasionally it's flashing, and I'm like, okay, hang on. And I like change some things on my laptop, and I upload new code, and they're like, that's perfect. And I'm like, oh, that's solid blue. Okay, whatever.
Oh boy.
Just about what works best in the moment, right? And not always the most complicated thing is the best.
So I'm nearly what I would call like a closeted maker, where I feel like if someone else relied on sort of me doing a part of it or whatever, that it would go wrong, simply because I usually work by myself. I don't collaborate a lot. It helps that I'm up in the great frozen north that nobody comes to. But yeah, basically, I've never done any collaborations. How do you deal with sort of like working with a team and working on someone else's designs? Is that something that helps your process, hinders your process? What's that feel like?
I think it's fun. Of course, I do the majority of my work is by myself and projects that are all my own ideas and control over. But when I do collaborate, I like to work with people who have a specific artistic vision, and like I'm a creative person. I went to art school, but my creativity is limited by my own logistical mindset sometimes. And so I've done a partnership with a stage costume designer here in New York called Christian Joy, who does a lot of musician stage wear. And like she'll send me a sketch of something she wants to do. And I'm just like really inspired by that artwork, and really inspired to problem solve like what's in front of me rather than have to come up with something from scratch. And then also to be part of that bigger vision, and to be the person who can be like, oh yeah, that's easy. I can make the LEDs yellow and pink. It is a really cool process, but you have to like the person you're working with, and it has to be worth it for both of you, I guess.
So you both have to like get your own sort of satisfaction off your own stuff, I guess, right? You can't rely on someone else to provide the project satisfaction to you. You have to work towards your own. Is that
Yeah,
about
you
right?
have to know what is going to satisfy you when you take on projects, and that takes experience, right? So if you don't, you just learn every time you work in a new fashion what you like and what you don't like.
Yeah, like I tell my students at the start, you're going to eat a lot of crap, but eventually you'll figure it all out. That's basic. I mean, that's basic learning, I suppose. I mean, I've eaten a lot of crap before I became the professional that I've become, in the automotive field. So I guess I can relate to that. But that's good to know that there's that there is hope that I'd be able to collaborate with someone. I think I would just be like, for example, in the Secret Santa, I would be so anxious that what I make is just not good enough, or you know I kind of feel like I can let myself down. I don't really care. But when someone else is involved, that becomes stressful to me. So yeah,
Sure.
I'm
Well,
I'm
and
glad
it's
someone's
like,
doing it.
one of the gonna be, I've done it for 2 years now. It's been one of the biggest videos on my channel the whole year. So it's not just about the public embarrassment factor. It's about the growth of my small business, and it's so I take it very seriously. But if you're talking about defining success, if you define success as getting your project to your recipient on time and having your video ready to go on time, then it becomes less about what the commenters are going to say, because a certain number of them are always going to tell you that it's not good enough.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Do you, since you're in New York, do you feel like that is a help to you because of the sort of the density of, I guess, availability of like other people to work with, or of the accessibility to, I guess, maker spaces and stuff like that? Or do you think it's a hindrance? Because I mean, I don't presume to know what you live in, but I've seen New York apartments, and they are not big and not conducive to big tooling.
I know. I've got like I made this Raspberry Pi smart mirror, and it became popular in a wave uh, after Secret Santa happened. Like as an aftershock thing, and I was getting all these new viewers on my Raspberry Pi smart mirror. In which video I like cut some plywood with my circular saw inside my studio, which I have a tour of on my YouTube channel. You can check out exactly what my New York City apartment workspace looks like. It's the largest bedroom in my 3-bedroom apartment, and my outdoor space is out a window, and it's very small. So people are like, why are you using that circular saw inside? Like, just use it in the garage. And I'm like, your garage? You invited
What
me
garage?
here? So there's like pros and cons, right? Like, of course, there's this high density of people who are interested in the same thing as you. I am a member of my hackerspace NYC Resistor. It's one of the oldest hackerspaces and one of the best, in my completely biased opinion. And so that provides like a grounding and a community. But a lot, like since the COVID, like a lot of those communities are forced to interact mostly online anyway. And I'm a big introvert. So although I like the physical space, and I help plan some of the parties, my fiance is a DJ and really likes to DJ the super nerdy crowd. I mainly interact with those people online, but I met them through this like space and organization, which is now a nonprofit. So that's a pretty exciting development in NYC Resistor news. But you're right, there's a hindrance in the physical space aspect. So if I want to make something super huge, there's like enormous logistical challenges and possibly also enormous expense involved in bringing about something large. So you'll see most of my projects are pretty small anyway. Also see the previous time I mentioned that I'm not incredibly strong. So that yeah, like if I want to make something, if I have a big idea, like I'll probably hit up somebody who lives outside the city for that collab. And there aren't a ton of maker content creators in the New York area as you might think. Like there are a few, and the whole Eastern Seaboard is way closer together than anywhere in California, for example. So people who live not in the immediate area are still pretty accessible by car. And but it can be kind of lonely. I don't know, because it's a lifestyle, right? People who like to make stuff often think of like needing a lot of space in a garage with where they can blow the sawdust outside. And I don't know. I just have a HEPA filter on my shop set, and it seems to work fine for the like 2 times I have to cut something with a circular saw in the whole year.
Yeah, I watch a woodworker, April with the W, her
Wilkerson.
last name. Yes, her. And I'm just so envious. She's got like 2 massive warehouse outbuildings.
Oh, I know,
One of
right? And
which
she's
she
like, I'm just
built.
gonna ride my dirt bike from my house to my workshop. And I'm
It's
like, cool, yeah,
incredible.
dirt bikes.
Yeah, I'm somewhere in the middle between what you're working with and what she's working with. I have, my wife and I bought a house 11 years ago,
Congrats.
and it's small. It's 1,200 square feet, but it's not New York small. But that's the other thing. Like
Yeah, but
I
like
mean,
my apartment's not tiny house small. I like to watch
no.
tiny house videos to like feel better about my apartment situation.
Yeah, well, they have it rough, and the people who do van lifing too that's rough for space. I don't know how those people do it, but yeah, it's crazy. One day, I wish I had, I wish to have somewhere big like April does, but at that point, I think it would just more be like a public maker space. I don't feel like I should keep all those tools to myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think I don't know about her business plan, but there's people who get really into a certain thing that requires a big tool, then have a side business where they're having a crew of people make use of that equipment when they're not using it. And so I think I agree that like it's cool to have um, the big specialized equipment in a way where it's not just sitting there unused most of the time, and that it's providing some community or business value. Like for instance, yeah, I don't want to have a CNC. I don't need or want to have a CNC woodcutter in my New York City apartment because they're like super loud and vibrating. So like the noise would perpetuate throughout the apartment building, and the dust is really fine, and the thing is kind of big. And so like, well, yeah, that means I just have to go over to my hackerspace to use the ShopBot, and I have to deal with all the stuff that goes along with that, but including also somebody who knows the ShopBot better than me being the person who maintains it and who can answer my questions. So there's a lot of trade-offs there. And yeah, for the most part, I like to keep the tools I use regularly at hand because I don't like to like have to put on shoes or go outside to make stuff. But when you're talking about big stuff like that, you can't just on a whim say I'm going to have this enormous piece of equipment. And I think it's nice ecologically to help you think about like not taking up more energy than you need to on this planet. But yeah, it's all about like what resources you have at hand. And if space is one of your resources, then that's a cool thing that you can like think about offering up to your community.
I'm just gonna pull you back here because you said resources. Did you make a robot out of bread?
Yeah.
You literally like put servos on a baguette, and I think it's
After I
the most.
shellacked it, I put a lot of shellac on the bread, and it was stale to begin with, so it was like already stiff. And then I shellacked it like 6 or 7, like lots and lots of layers, and then I put the servo motors in there. That's actually was for an art show at my hackerspace. The theme was self-driving carbs. And the bread robots were my friend Randy Serafan's idea, and he has a book called Simple Bots you can buy that I'd like to plug, that just came out pretty recently, all about like making silly kinetic robots with modified servo motors. So there's no programming; you just like take out the controller board, and it becomes like a really strong gear motor, and you just like hook them up in all these fun different configurations mixed with like plastic stuff you get at the dollar store, and you can make all of these really amusing robots, including the bread robot. The bread robot's not in the book, but the bot that it uses like a Tupperware container instead of the loaf of bread. So Randy was making this exhibit for the art show, and I just like piled on and made like a couple more bread robots. I made the one with the baguette, and then so it's based on a circuit. I think his is called the wobbler bot, and
Yeah.
then I also made a vibrating plate of New York City pretzels, like street stand pretzels. Like I just like bought a stack of pretzels and then glued them together and glued them to a plastic plate and then put like an enormous, it was like a brush bot. It was like a cleaning brush and then like an enormous vibrating motor and a battery pack. And so you can see photos of it online. It was like the interactive show at NYC Resistor a couple years ago. And I wore like a bagel on a chain necklace. It was a good time.
That's hilarious and awesome. That's just the right level of nerd for the podcast. I love it. And it is actually, I have to say, it is a great permission machine for people who are working with limited budgets, because you can build something fun and exciting with not a lot of money, to be honest. I have a lot of people in my comment section. I've got pretty much 50-50 when I get when I put out a video on a certain module or whatever. Half of them say it's too expensive, and half of them say there's a more expensive alternative that would have been better. But
and you can't win Goldilocks.
No, you can't. No one's right in the Goldilocks zone. But you can build cool like robot arms and cool like little robots like what you're saying, with literally hot glue, servos, and trash. Like if you can afford a couple servos, you can have a great time. So it's really good that you made a video showing this off, because you could have just, done it for the art installation, and then it would have been great for the people who visited. But I like the fact that you shared this with the internet and hopefully inspired other people to do similar things. It doesn't have to be useful. It can just be silly.
Yeah, well, silly is useful when it comes to like looking for inspiration,
Absolutely. Well said. That's really well said. You touched a couple times on the fact that you teach a was it postgrad
graduate class? Yeah, I teach a class in an MFA program at School of Visual Arts. The program's called Products of Design.
And what kind of education do you have? Because I'm looking at just your body of work in general, and there's a lot of sort of engineering touches. There's a lot of artistic touches, but I feel like some makers are hard to put in a box, and I would say that would be...
Yeah, don't put me in a box, Dan.
Yeah, I'm not.
I have a BFA in Design and Technology from Parsons School of Design here in New York City. So I moved here for college, and I've lived here almost since, except for the 2 years I moved away to go to grad school at Arizona State, where I dropped out of 2 different graduate programs. First, a PhD in Media Arts and Sciences, and second, an MFA in Sculpture. So I don't have a terminal degree, but I have taught in this graduate program, which is a terminal degree program, for the last decade. So based on my industry experience, and that's how all the program professors are all adjuncts working in their field. So that's my higher education in a nutshell. Yes, there's a lot of engineering in there, although never officially as part of a degree name. I focus primarily on art and design in my early education, and most of my interests lie in expressing creativity. And I just use technology as one of the tools for doing that.
Fair enough. And you seem to have garnered a lot of partnerships. I see that you've worked with a lot of different publications. Did you, with the Aura Ring, was that the one that you worked with at like an imaging company? What's like, how do you get all these cool partnerships basically?
So I've been partnering lately for teardowns on my YouTube channel with LumaField, which is it's a CT imaging company out of Cambridge and the Bay Area, Cambridge, Massachusetts. So I met them through a friend of a friend, actually. My friend David Craner is friends with John Bruner from MIT, and you might remember that duo from like the O'Reilly Solid conference, and like they're big on manufacturing and stuff. And so when I started doing teardowns with David on my channel, he's like, what would be cool, since you destroyed this thing, taking it apart, it would have been cool to see like how it sat in the enclosure to answer this question about like why it was made that way. And his friends were making this company. So he introduced me to them even before they went live with their announcement about what the company was about, and have been providing me with free CT scanning services of gadgets before I take them apart. So it's very much a nepotistic friend of a friend introduction for that opportunity to work with Lumafield. But it hopefully is easy influencer marketing for them too, since just ship them the thing and they scan it and ship it back to me. And then I get this awesome imagery. DigiKey is the sponsor for those videos anyway, so they're footing the bill for any of the tools and supplies and the promotional consideration. So with Lumafield, it's just a really easy, natural, organic. We call that an organic collaboration. When it comes to you provide me with fantastic imaging of the thing I'm talking about, and I'll provide you with some marketing. Hopefully people in my audience are in the fields that are in the target demographic for Lumafield's business, and increase awareness about them. So that's a really cool, it's a really cool company. You can look on their website and make a free account and look at all their sample scans of not just electronics, but like injection molded parts. And there's like a bunch of other applications for CT scanning commercial things on the like smaller than a body, right? Like smaller than a medical CT scanner.
Yeah, they've done a lot of work with Tested recently. Adam Savage's.
Oh my gosh, John Bruner looks so nervous talking to Adam Savage. It's so funny.
Oh yeah, I would be too. I mean, I've been watching Adam on TV since I was a kid. Like I would be. I mean, already when I talk to makers, on this podcast, I hope I hide it well, but I'm nervous as hell. So
audio only helps a lot. I think it was some physical cues, like he was sort of fidgeting a little bit.
Yeah.
Made me know. Notice that he was nervous.
100%. It's not. I don't think it's fair to ask someone who's collaborated with a lot of people and companies and whatever to ask them what their favorite collaboration was. So could you just tell us something memorable that came out of one of your collaborations, something you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, so I, speaking of teardowns, I mean, I also do project videos, of course, but taking stuff apart is fun because you get to like talk about the intersection of design and manufacturing. So check out my channel for, teardowns, but also projects. I did this other teardown of the Muse brainwave headset. It's a meditation device, and it pairs with an app, and it reads your brainwaves, and then it like changes the soundscape of the meditation and helps provide you with like feedback to calm your, to meditate effectively. And the device is cool because it has some fabric sensors. And the one that they had me take apart was like the sleep model. So it was designed to help you sleep. And so it was like made out of soft, the fabric. It has like fabric sensors with this hard plastic holding the brains of it. And what was cool is, I always ask the companies like, hey, do you want to send me one of these for free so I could take it apart? Like, I'm really interested in, I'll say lots of nice things about the design and manufacturing and the people who worked on it, and point out like, cool things about electronics manufacturing. But they often nobody replies or they say no. But I asked Muse and they said yes. And so what that meant was that I actually got to partner with them like a quote unquote real influencer with like my own discount code and everything, and them having a marketing recognizing the marketing value of taking their thing apart, and also not having their lawyers say like, no, it's a terrible idea to endorse that behavior because you're just giving away your trade secrets and you don't want to be on the record promoting that. And I understand if their lawyers tell them that, but Muse is actually a Canadian company, so it's the first electronics company post like on my own channel of teardowns who said yes to an actual sanctioned teardown. And then I found out by posting about it online that like the electrical engineer who worked on the circuit showed up in my comments, and she's a woman. And so like not through their marketing, but through my own exploration of the product and talking about my findings, I met the female electrical engineer who worked on this circuit. And like, that's also fantastic to uncover. So that's a fun anecdote about an actual partnership. But it's also fun to take stuff apart when people said no or didn't reply, because then you're under no obligation to like only say nice things.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's another point when I make. Usually, companies reach out to me. I have reached out to a few companies, but it's usually a no. But I think, it's really important to remain honest. So It's good that you do like a teardown type video because it's not the same as like a review type video,
I
right?
won't
So
do
you can,
only a review. I think they're boring
yeah,
to watch, and and if the product's been given to you for free, then your opinion's not completely objective, no matter what you say. So it's like,
correct.
I won't do it unless I can take it apart. So, and if they say no and I want to take it apart anyway, I'll just buy it.
And then
I bought those
they have
Oura
no
rings on
control.
eBay. I bought both of those Oura rings on eBay.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm looking just because you said Muse was Canadian. They're in Toronto. That's pretty awesome. That doesn't surprise me though. Most Canadian things that get international attention are from either Montreal, Toronto, or Vancouver. So pretty neat though. That's not that far from here. Cool. Didn't even know it existed, and now there's a Canadian facet to it.
It's cool because like there's no reason that the product itself would be marketed to you organically if you're not a meditator, right? But it's interesting to makers because controlling things with your brain waves is super fascinating, and this device does that. I've even heard from somebody who wrote an Arduino library that the Muse headset can be used with this guy's Arduino library. I haven't tried it myself, but like not only could I put that thing back together again, like so it wasn't destructively things weren't permanent. I didn't destroy it when I took it apart, and but it can like maybe be used with my Arduino to like do some of my own brainwave stuff. Like, cool, that's my kind of gadget, even if it's originally for meditation. I don't know, that's fascinating to me.
It is fascinating, absolutely. So, as a maker with a smaller making space, what kind of stuff do you keep in stock, sort of at all times, in case the whim to make stuff hits you?
Been quite spoiled in the supply realm of things for quite some time based on my connections, but I like to keep a couple cheap small microcontrollers on hand right now. The Zhao RP 2040 is really hitting that spot because it's like $5-6 and it's the size of a piece of gum. But there's a bunch of boards that are like that these days. Take your pick and your flavor. So I always keep some microcontrollers around. I always keep like the prototyping size, full size Arduino Unos and stuff like that. A couple of those around with a solderless breadboard attached for like prototyping a quick solderless project. And then when I want to like put it to a soldered board, I always keep like some perf boards around. I'm really liking the DigiKey. What are they called? The solderful breadboard. It's like a perma-proto in the shape of the connections on the solderless breadboard, so you can really just like make a one-for-one soldered version of your prototype, which really helps like students and beginners who aren't electrical engineers like bring their prototypes to the next level.
Oh, really neat. I've okay. I see. They have the same kind of track connections and stuff. That's
Yeah, so you don't have to like abstract your you can abstract your circuit diagram, but when you move your parts over, they can stay in the same spots and have the same connections. So I always keep some of those around. I have a lot of craft supplies. Like I need to be able to like knit a hat at a moment's notice. Like the one who dies with the most yarn wins. Same goes
yeah,
with like fabric. So I'm a bit of a pack rat, but I try to keep things organized. So it's just the things you find yourself reaching for, or that like you're scared to use the last one. Those are the things that you should just get yourself a little buffer of, and it makes like the workshop feel a little bit more luxurious. And aren't we trying to have fun while we're making stuff anyway, right?
absolutely. I've been trying for a long time to sort of organize myself to have enough parts in stock so that when I have something, the whim hits me, I have all the parts I need. But I have yet to think of a project idea and then go around my workshop collecting the supplies and realize I've had everything I needed. I find that so frustrating for my creative process, especially as a sort of a procrastinating maker. When the whim hits me, I want to work. And sometimes it's just frustrating to not have what I need in stock. And then I have to order it from either AliExpress, which takes 2 months, or DigiKey, which cost me about 8 times the AdSense revenue on the video would give me. So,
Oh no,
yeah,
shipping from DigiKey is expensive for you. I'm sorry to hear that because they are in northern Minnesota.
Yeah, anything that crosses into Canada, it you can just tack on like 15 or $16
Oh,
to
because you have to
the
pay
shipping.
VAT, right?
We
But also
do
just
we
the
don't.
shipping cost because it has to go through customs and all that. Wah, wah.
Yeah, that's one of the big advantages of being in the US is that sort of everything is there, right?
That's one
Everything
of the
is like
advantages of living in New York City also, by the way. Like we were talking about the trade-offs for space and the density of humans who have the same interests as you. Um, but also it's a major shipping hub. So I could push my Secret Santa deadline a little bit, knowing that my box was going to leave JFK Airport and go directly where it needed to go, without sitting on a truck for too long first. And I can get supplies shipped to me really, really fast.
yeah, that's very true. And people on the West Coast, like Los Angeles area, they have those very similar advantages because obviously they're just the hub on the other end, right?
Right. Like
So
there's just like an Amazon warehouse full of all of the battery connectors I want.
exactly, yeah, there we go.
And like, I order them at 11 a.m. and they show up at 8 p.m. Um, yeah, I am a little bit spoiled for my shipping location, but also because I'm sponsored by DigiKey, so I, I,
That is pretty nice.
they'll send me some parts.
DigiKey and Mouser, they both have like Canadian websites, but yeah, it's about 7 days if I want to get stuff in. But then if you factor, it's about 40% more expensive because the conversion rate, which isn't so bad. Like I just that's something you just get used to. I mean, I get paid my sponsorship dollars in American money anyways. But then yeah, it's the additional shipping cost is ridiculous. Like if I want to send, let's say a PCB to one of my viewers, the absolute minimum cost for putting a PCB in an envelope and sending it out is $9.50.
What?
That's
Why
the
doesn't it count as a letter size if it's just a PCB?
Canada Post does not accept anything that isn't like paper or
Oh,
cardboard.
it has to be. It has to be able to go through their automatic sorting machine that
Correct.
has the
Yeah.
rollers and it bends it.
Yes.
Yep.
So
Okay. Well,
if
you got to work around here we have machinable. The postal equipment can machine squishy envelopes too, and I can ship my LED sewing kits domestically for like $3.
I am so jealous.
Because they'll
Yeah.
go through the machine. I know that because they go through the machine successfully.
Yeah, I can send you a letter for $1.50, but yeah, a
No
PCB to New York
PCBs.
City, it's like $9.50.
Wow.
And if I want to send it to to New York City is like $9.50, right? But if I want to send it to British Columbia, just on the West Coast, it's going to be like $11.50.
Yeah,
Doesn't
and
even
it
make
does
sense.
cost more to ship it further away across the land because it uses more
Hmm.
fuel.
Yep, that's
Well,
the
I'm so
reality.
sorry for you. I'm playing a tiny violin because you have universal health care. So
Yes, we
fight
do.
me.
I mean, it's falling apart, but we still have it. That's very true. But I do, I would like to go back to New York City. I've been there. It's over 10 years ago now, and it was quite the fantastic experience. Aside from learning how much you folks pay for rent, that was eye opening. But yeah, at some point, I need to go to like some sort of maker meetup type thing in New York City because as someone who lives in Ottawa, it's actually not that far for me.
Yeah, you should come. The next opportunity is, I think, Open Hardware Summit at the end of April. And I know that my hackerspace is hosting the after party. So
Yeah, I keep being told that Open Hardware Summit is the way to go. So I'm gonna consider it. It'll depend on my
it's
school
just the
contract,
next
though.
major maker event that's happening in New York City. And then there's also going to be a Coney Island Maker Faire, I think, in the fall.
Okay,
A
interesting.
Coney
Are you
Island
gonna be there?
mini Maker Faire. So those, keep those two events in mind.
Are you gonna be at any of those two?
Yeah, I'll at least be at the after party for Open Hardware Summit. Smokey's DJing.
Very. Have you? I know Adam Savage visited NYC Resistor. Did you know of his visit? Were you there?
I think it was before I was a member.
Oh, dang. I can't keep track of time since the pandemic. Everything is just like compressed.
Yeah, and MIC Resistor's been around for a while.
Yeah, I think it used to be like a government building or something even before that, but other than that, it was like a maker space, right? Like for the longest time.
I don't know about the history of the building before. The
Oh,
MIC Resistor was in 2 different locations. They moved
oh,
to the
gotcha.
current location at a certain point, but I don't know about the rest of the building.
I also see that you've been messing with PlayStation 4 controllers. I'm planning on using one to sort of design a splittable controller that comes apart in the middle, so that I can put a screen in the middle, sort of like a Steam Deck or like a Nintendo Switch.
Mm-hmm.
Um, can you talk a little bit about your PlayStation 4 PCBs?
Sure. I had some broken PS4 controllers that I wanted to use for something else, so I basically just wanted to use the buttons and the joysticks to input to a microcontroller project. So it's a little bit different than wanting to use the alter but still maintain the PS4 controller functionality. Like my board doesn't interface with the trackpad or have any brains on it whatsoever. It's just a breakout board for the membrane connector, so the D-pad buttons and the round buttons, the joystick buttons, and um, the trigger buttons and the trackpad button, but not the trackpad, if that makes sense. And so that I could use it as a music controller. And so what you would probably want to do is just take the thing apart and bring the brain over to one side of your split design and maintain the existing brain if you want to still use it as a PS4 controller, or USB controller to plug into your computer.
Oh, I'd go completely custom. I'm more interested in what you did, like with the buttons, basically, because I'd probably interface it to our Raspberry Pi, like an RP2040, and then use it as just a USB HID device.
Right. Yeah, that's a great thing. And I did actually my first prototype that was off the board. Just had the however many buttons there are like out on a breadboard, and I did use an RP2040 for the brains. It's running like a synthesizer beat machine, and like the buttons like toggle the sound samples on and off. And so that's
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 great.
the like project that I'm working towards, and it's a collab with this guy Lightfoot Beats, who lives in Boston and makes cool music. So, like take his sound samples and put them on the synth Python, script, and then run it with the buttons from the PlayStation controller. So, and then I want to like sculpt. I want to do some like polymer clay sculpting on the controller to like modify the form somewhat. Right now it's just it's just the form of a PlayStation controller, so you're just using the buttons as digital inputs to the Arduino board or the RP2040 in that case.
Yeah, that's really cool stuff. I find the intersection between music and electronics fascinating. They seem to go together hand in hand so well, like between the synths and effects pedals, and I mean they're all like intertwined. So I really love that relationship.
It's
I
like a
wish I was a bit
tinkering
more.
mindset, right? You're tinkering. What I understand anyway, I'm not a super intense musician, but from what I understand, people who are really into music like tinkering, and people who are into electronics also like tinkering. So it makes sense that it's like itching the same or scratching the same part of your brain.
Yeah, that is really interesting. I find it really cool too, because you get a little bit of more artistry off of the pure science of electronics. So I always feel like the best innovations are made at the intersection between two disciplines.
Yeah.
And so, like when I had Thea on, for example, talking about synthesizers and how she's making her money, it's all awesome, really cool stuff.
Hmm.
I have one question that I ask every single guest of mine. Do you mind if I throw it to you?
Naturally.
So you get a big grant to start the business of your dreams. The business does not have to be profitable, but it does have to provide either a product or a service. What kind of business do you start?
Animal rescue.
Oh, very good. What kind of animals are we talking about here?
Oh, I don't know. All of them? Dogs.
All of them? Yeah. Well, dogs. I mean, you're a woman after my heart, that's for sure, because I'm a dog person for sure. Do you
I
have
love dogs, and I have been involved in dog rescue here in New York City. I've been a volunteer foster for an organization called Badass Animal Rescue that brings dogs from places where there's a lot of extra ones, like the South, Georgia, and South Carolina, and the Virgin Islands, and brings them here to New York City, where there are lots of people who want dogs, and puts them up. It's it's an all foster rescue, so the dogs come in and they stay in volunteer foster homes around the city and then have adoption events and people pick them up. And in being involved with this organization and fostering the dogs and meeting the people involved, I am just so impressed by the joy that this organization like brings into the world, not only for the dogs but for the people, and how it's like solving a very real problem just by like finding a better market for the unwanted dogs. It seems like such a no-brainer, but required, because it's a not like a required or necessary quote unquote service. They are all nonprofits and running by the skin of their teeth to have enough money to do the things that they do. So if I had unlimited money and time, I would probably, I don't know if I would start a competing rescue, but because I would just put all my money into the one I'm involved with now. But dog rescue is something that's really close to my heart, and I'm really passionate about it.
Well, I mean, you could always start a business that links rescues to funding. I mean, there's always that. So there we go.
Yeah, but then if you're a business for profit, aren't you then just like taking a cut of their funding?
Oh, I don't know. I was thinking more.
Whatever. The way that the foster dogs get to New York is they have like this stopover point in Pennsylvania at this place called Ava's Play Pups. It's like where you send your dog to resort vacation while you go on your like vacation where you had to fly and couldn't take your dog. And it's like summer camp for dogs, and it's expensive. I remember hearing about it because a lot of people here in New York City use that service, and they have like a van that'll stop around the city and pick up your dog and return your dog for your dog to go to summer camp, daycare, or sleepaway camp. And I always thought like, oh, this is crazy, so expensive, and I like pay to have your dog taken like on a van like outside the city, but then they have all this space for them to run around. Well, Ava's Play Pups is the like stopping point for a lot of these dogs that are coming up from the south for this rescue. So Ava's Play Pups charges people with fancy dogs like to keep their purebred dogs on a vacation, but also provides free lodging for these dogs that are in transition between entering rescue and finding and getting into their foster home. So and the lady's like heavily involved in the rescue and obviously loves dogs. So like that's a business that takes from the rich and gives to the poor. Talking about dogs.
Yeah. There's definitely ways to do good by doing well, and
yeah,
I honestly wish it was the guiding principle of more businesses out there.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing I love that expression. Yeah.
And so I guess just at the tail end of the podcast, is there anywhere you want to send the viewers at the moment? I definitely think they should go check out your YouTube channel. Do you have like a Patreon or something as well?
Yeah, I only ask people who are like true fans of mine to join my Patreon if they choose to do so. That supports my lifestyle. I'm a full-time content creator now, so I have a diverse set of revenue streams. So by all means, please subscribe, but only sign up for any paid opportunities if I've earned it. And follow me on like whatever social media that you like best, because I'm on them all.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just picking up Instagram too. So if if you want to follow on Instagram, that seems to be a fun place for makers to be at the moment. So I would personally recommend that one. But whichever one people prefer. And you also have your own website if people want more information about you, right?
Heck yeah. You can read all of my publications and all of my like several hundred tutorials on my website, beckystern.com.
That's an exhausting amount of tutorials. I'm so glad that someone like you took time to make them.
And also like so surprising that I was able to make that all before the age of 25, right? Because I'm not a day older than that.
I don't have a good read on your age, but I will tell you,
You can
I
tell
was
by how many projects I've published, though.
I
That's just
was
giving me away
sleuthing.
lately.
Yeah, I was sleuthing through because on your website you have a link to your Flickr page,
Oh, yeah, and it goes
and
way back.
it goes but you've been making since way back at the beginning, like 100 pages down in your Flickr thing. It's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, we won't say what year that was, but people can go digging themselves if they want to. And then also, I suppose you can find out how old I am on my Wikipedia page. I'm not ashamed. I just love to joke about perceptions. That's all.
Sounds good. And I thank you so much for taking your time to be on the podcast. I'm very happy that I think it was Senya who reached out to you, right? That makes sense?
Yeah, yeah, I know Senya. She's my internet friend.
Yeah, Senya is awesome. And yeah, so thank you so much for taking your time out of your busy schedule. I know makers, we are just usually in a chaos section of our lives when we're making stuff. So I
Yeah, I
really
got some
appreciate
stuff
your time.
over on that it's catching my eye over on my workbench right now, but it's always nice to take a break. And who doesn't love talking about themselves?
Yeah, forcefully.
Thanks so much for having me, Dan.
Thank you so much. And everyone, yeah, I do hope you go check out Becky's stuff. And I mean, I think she's done so much that there's probably something for you no matter what you're
Yeah,
into.
I got something for everyone. I got
Yeah, pretty
more than
much.
37 flavors.
And we hope to catch you in the next one. Make sure you go onto her YouTube channel at the very least and leave a nice comment. I recommend the this whole Tony Secret Santa video. It's pretty good. Thanks for listening.